everyone. Welcome back to Rainy Day Reads. And today I am back with my friends for another discussion on A Light in the Window by Jan Karon for our Year in Mitford read along. So I guess, should we start off with our food? I think. Yeah. Okay. I guess I'll go first since this is on my channel. Okay. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to show this easily. I should have taken my silverware off. Hold on. Life is tough. Life is hard. Anyway, I made Father Tim's beef tenderloin. Although it's a roast. Is that the same thing as beef tenderloin? I could just find a roast, and I was not sure. So, and with horseradish sauce. So it looks very delightful. But I also feel like it's going to be very spicy because it had a lot of cayenne pepper in it. So
and horseradish.
Yeah. Yes, and horseradish. But as I was putting in, I think it had like 2 tablespoons of cayenne pepper in it, or at least a tablespoon for like the dry rub around it. And I'm pouring this in thinking, oh no, this isn't going to be good. It might be tasty, but probably should have had some tissues around me. So should we say what we all made first and then try? Is that what we did last time? Okay, so go ahead, Kate, go for it.
So I think maybe somebody else did biscuits. So these are buttermilk biscuits, which tip, if you don't have buttermilk, you can make it by putting in some vinegar into milk. So buttermilk I'm able to find it at the grocery store nearby, but I had used it up for another recipe. So yes, I made buttermilk biscuits, and this is definitely the kind that I grew up with in Mississippi. This is like this was a staple in our household. And I had this I like how biscuit dough tastes like way too much. Like I like the cooked biscuits, but then I was like, you need to calm it down with the biscuit dough, Kate.
I have never had raw biscuit dough.
Yeah.
That might be something to try.
If you're going to make biscuits anyway.
That's true. Angie, do you want to?
I was supposed to make biscuits. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I was supposed to make biscuits too. It was me, Kate. But I went to 3 different stores and I couldn't find self-rising flour. I did that today instead of preparing. I went today after work. I couldn't find self-rising flour. I did find buttermilk at one store, but it had a layer at the top that looked a little yellow. And I thought, I don't know, I'm not sure if I trust this. So then I thought, let's make peanut butter and banana sandwiches. I couldn't find bananas.
What?
The last store finally had some. I thought, what am I going to do? I don't know what I'm going to make. So I made a peanut butter and banana sandwich, and I used Cynthia's recipe, not Jan Karon's, because in the cookbook it says Jan Karon's peanut butter banana sandwich, but she states at the bottom that she has her own recipe, and Cynthia's recipe was somewhere else in the book. She had put a little paragraph with Cynthia's peanut butter banana sandwich recipe. So I used Cynthia's, which has crunchy peanut butter, thick sliced bananas, and then I went ahead and
grilled it.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that could be good. I knew there was like a pool we would go to in the summertime, and they made at like the snack stand or whatever, they sold grilled peanut butter and jelly, and people really liked it. So
I think grilled sandwich is just better.
Yeah. And I think Elvis Presley's favorite sandwich is grilled peanut butter and banana. I think it was.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I've heard that too. So yeah, I didn't know it was grilled, but I knew he liked.
Maybe not grilled.
Well, he was rich. He could grill all the things. Okay, Chelsea, what did you make?
I made Father Tim's twice baked potatoes.
Ooh,
Oh.
And it was interesting. I don't usually do the twice baked potato. I just bake a potato and cut it in half and add my toppings. So this one, like, you scoop it all out and mix in the cheese and butter and almost make like mashed potatoes with some milk, cheese, butter, and then bake the shells longer dipped in butter. It's a lot of butter. And then refill it and put it back in the oven. So they said just serve it with sour cream and scallions, but like, I'm Canadian, maple baked beans belong on literally everything. So I have maple baked beans and tomato on top as well as my sour cream and scallions.
Make it your own.
That's very much like a comfort food with the beans added in.
Yeah, I love beans it goes so well on baked potato, like especially maple baked beans are a little bit sweet, and then you have the sour cream and like bacon bits, scallions. It's like, oh, it's one of my favorites. So I'm very curious to see how the twice baked, if it's worth the extra effort. It definitely fancies them up, like because the cheese I had was cheddar, so it made the whole filling kind of orange. You can't really see because I've covered it so much with toppings, but like the actual filling kind of got a nice color compared to just potato colored.
I feel like my grandma used to make twice baked potatoes sometimes. She doesn't anymore, but I always thought they looked really fancy.
Yeah. Like, imagine if I had hours of time, I could have like piped it in like fancy things.
Yeah.
Like, scooped it back in.
My mom makes them and I really, really like them. Like, we had them for Easter last year, and twice baked potatoes are a lot of work. So she asked what she could bring, and I was like, twice baked potatoes.
Yeah. You're gonna bring
I've
food.
never what's that?
I said, if you're gonna bring food, bring the hard stuff.
Exactly. I've never tried baked beans on a baked potato, so now I'm going to do that.
Yeah, we always do that in our family. I highly recommend maple baked beans if you can find them, but I'm sure regular baked beans would also be good.
I like baked beans on hot dogs. Is that something you eat, Chelsea? Or are you vegetarian?
I'm vegetarian, so I don't really have hot dogs usually. But I'm trying to think if I ever did. I've had like a chili, which had beans in it, like a chili dog.
Yeah, see, I don't like chili dogs, but I like when we have hot dogs, my topping is either mustard or baked beans.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, that was like the side dish. It would be like hot dogs with maple baked beans.
Yeah.
And toast. It would be like a really easy, like, comfort meal.
I'm already chowing down. It's not as hot as I thought it would be with all the cayenne in it. I guess it dispersed it a little bit. But there was another beef tenderloin recipe in there too. And I forget. Edith's? Yeah. I didn't look at what the difference was though. So, but I like this. This is good. I'll have to make this again.
So Rainey, did you buy, when you bought the cut of beef, was it tenderloin or was it roast?
It was roast.
Okay.
Or maybe it said like beef loin or something like that. Loin roast or something like that. But as I talk with my mouth full. I only had time to go to one store. So I had to go with what they had. So, but I figured beef is beef, right? You know, it works. So it was just the only part that I like had to make was the dry rub that went around it. So I figured I could put that on pretty much anything. And then I wanted you to like just cook it at like 375 until it was a certain internal temperature, depending on how done you wanted it to be. But I just slow roasted it like all day long. So so it's pretty tender at this point, so I like it.
That's great. I have not been able to learn how to like horseradish.
Yeah, I don't normally, but this is actually, it's kind of nice it's not real not super spicy.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, although I will, it's just creamier or something. But I will say, when I opened the jar of prepared horseradish, I was like, oh, this stinks so bad. I did not like the smell. And I needed like 2 tablespoons of it, I think. And I have a whole jar now. I'm like, what do I do? Well.
Well, the biscuits are very, very good. They're very light and fluffy. Just random trivia that blew my mind a couple of years ago. It was the 4th of October, and we were trying to do a live show, and Ange was having trouble getting signed in. So Katie and I were just talking while we were waiting. And I relayed to Katie a question that Peter had, because I told him how in England they call cookies biscuits. And then he said, well, what do they call biscuits? And I thought, I don't know. What do they call biscuits? And I asked her, and then she was like, oh, well, let me like look at a picture of it, because she hadn't had them. And she's like, oh, it's a scone. And I was like, oh my God, that is what they are. They're scones. It just never occurred to me before.
Huh. That's interesting. Because I always think scones is like more of a dessert type thing. But
there are savory scones. There's like, my friend used to make scones a lot, and she would make like cheddar scones. And it is, I mean, it's like, you don't wait for it to rise, and how it rises is with baking powder. So I was kind of surprised it didn't occur to me before that.
So is it basically the same ingredients as a scone, minus the sweet?
I think it is.
Okay. Huh. I would have never thought about that.
Except for scones, the edges look different on scones, because you cut them with a knife. And biscuits you cut with a like dropped biscuit cutter.
Okay. Ooh, I spoke too soon. I got a very spicy bit. Woo! All right. Exciting. All right. So, should we go to the book? Okay. So, I guess, what was everybody's reaction to the second of the book? The second of the series, I mean.
All
Kate,
right.
what did you...
I'm just going to come out the gate swinging.
Okay.
I did not enjoy this one very much.
Oh, no.
Okay. So 3 reasons. Because I was like, I need to be ready. Like, why didn't I? The writing I still loved. I loved the vibes of Mitford, all of that. And I also like how it doesn't show this like glamorized, it was held true in this one. It doesn't show this glamorized view of adopting a child and like doing daily life with someone. Like sometimes you're cranky. So I liked that, but I am a person that there's certain kinds of plots that will stress me out too much to kind of like fully enjoy a story. And so the whole like, Father Tim just drove me nuts. I'm like, you're in your 60s, dude. Like, you don't get to hesitate about whether you want to get married or not. Like, this is like, if this seems to be the opportunity if you want to get married. And so I was kind of like, grow up, Father Tim. Like, here's this amazing woman, and she's totally fine, like with you having your busy life, serving your community. She knows what it's going to be like. It's not like this is, some really young woman who has all these ideals about what it will be like to be a pastor's wife. Like, she gets it. And he said, well, how does she describe his letters? As like something he'd send to a distant relative or something?
I know.
So that was mega stressful, that plot line. And then add onto it the widow that would not take no for an answer. And Angie, I know you said this about another book you were reading. I can't remember which one it was, but like if that was reversed and if a man was doing that, people would act like it was like, he's a stalker, you need a restraining order. And so it's not like the book was portraying that it was okay that she was doing that, but it made me so panicked for him. And a little bit, I felt like he should have just yelled at her. Like, I think he thought it wouldn't have been godly, but I think it was righteous anger. Like, she would not listen to him. and then add in the plot line with the cousin Meg, which I did call that. I was like, she's not his cousin. Like,
I know.
who would come and visit and then like be that rude to their cousin? It's one thing to invite yourself and then come stay that long, but then to be that rude, like she can't be. Like, I really hope it's not actually his cousin. So yeah, and I think like half the book we're missing Cynthia because she's not in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really, she was one of my favorite aspects of the last book. So I think this not at all has put, taken the wind out of my sails for this project. Cause I'm kind of like, you can't love every book in a series.
Right.
And this was kind of the plot in this one, just like some people talk about with Betsy Tacy, like, oh, I can't stand the sorority book. You know, or mine is Betsy in the Great World, where she's away from her community. So I was just missing Cynthia, and all the problems were like too much Father Tim's. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe like when there are other people's problems and he's helping them, it feels safer.
Mm-hmm.
That's my experience.
That's
Angie,
interesting. I actually liked this a little more than I liked book one. Like, I liked book one, but this one was hovering on like a 4-star. I didn't quite give it 4 stars, but it was nearly there. I think I liked that we did see more of Father Tim's problems. I mean, don't get me wrong, I really like all of the characters. I liked all the characters in the first book, but I really liked that this one focused more on Father Tim's own issues. Yeah, with Meg, with Dooley, with Leaper, the supervisor or the superintendent, and then with Cynthia. So I did like that. And yeah, I'm with you, Kate. I felt he just hesitated way too much, especially as a 62-year-old man. And if you think this is a woman who you want to spend the rest of your life with, then just commit to it. Stop hemming and hawing, and kind of like stringing her along is what it felt like he was doing. And I just felt like that didn't, I don't know, maybe, and it maybe was because of his fear of what could happen, or maybe a commitment. But I just felt like it didn't quite go with his character, maybe. And then, yeah, with Meg, I actually really liked the Meg storyline. And I'm with you, Kate. Like, I thought, this seems a little weird. I don't know if she's his cousin. And then not only that, I was actually really surprised that that the author kind of painted an Irish, or just, not specifically Irish, but an Irish person in kind of like such a bad light. Like, she had such horrible character traits, and I thought that's really odd, because I feel like Americans, we admire a lot of British Irish people. And so it was really weird to see her with some really bad character traits, personality traits. And so then when it was revealed at the end, she's not even Irish. I'm like, oh, okay. So I guess what, she's American? Is she an American? I don't know. But I don't know, that just, because, everything I've ever read, anything written by Americans about British or Irish always seems very complimentary, I guess. Maybe it's just because I have a limited amount of reading that I've done. But yeah, we normally... Do you know what I mean? Does that?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that for the most part, you don't ever see British or Irish people in an American book coming off. Yeah, you get it in British books,
Right.
But yeah, if you have one British character in an American book, they're.
That's interesting. I think I've had the same experience too. It's always portrayed very positively, but now I'm thinking about how things have really changed with kind of the general consensus on Irish people, because I know that way back, like early 1900s, there would be signs like Irish need not apply.
Yeah.
True.
And how that dynamic has changed.
Mm-hmm. So Chelsea, what are your thoughts?
I was probably leaning more towards Kate's opinion. I didn't like it as much as the first book.
No.
Like I didn't hate it. I enjoyed the experience. It was the audiobook narrator is still like fantastic. Like I love all his little accents that he does and
I know, I love
he puts on. But yeah, Father Tim drove me like absolutely nuts. Like I was over the like will they won't they in the first book was like kind of cute, and then it was like, oh, they're gonna do it, and then it was like we do this again for a whole nother book that's like a whole nother year of time of this like, and like he just wouldn't get on the plane to go visit her in New York. I'm like, because I did long distance with my husband for like 3 years.
Oh.
And so I'm like, just get on the plane. Like you can't say like between like October and March, you're just gonna like write some letters. Like, why will you not go visit her in New York? You have people who are willing to take on your responsibilities. Like that family was happy to have Dooley go visit for the weekend on the farm. Like, just go visit her. Like, I can't believe you would have someone write you a letter saying, please, like, I miss you, come visit me. And you just be like, thanks for the letter, but I'm scared of planes, or like, I don't want to see New York. You're getting invited to New York. Like,
and also call him crying, like sobbing on the phone.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't even know, like, do I still want them to get together after this? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like Cynthia deserves better. But I did enjoy the letter aspect too, because I really like letter novels, epistolary novels. So that aspect I really did find fun. I'm with you. The Old Widow, I felt like it was a really stressful plot line, but also he never really like just flat out told her like I'm not interested.
Mm-hmm.
right.
Like, I understand maybe he didn't want to like have the gossip spill that he was kind of half seeing Cynthia, and so he didn't want to say like I'm seeing someone else, but just say you're not interested instead of like all these elaborate like plots to avoid her and stuff. Just tell her. I was really happy that we followed up the plot line, and I can't remember everyone's names, but the plot line with the lady with the heart transplant and Miss Sadie.
Yeah.
I was so glad that they like connected and realized they were family. So that was sweet.
Yeah, that was a really cute part. I like that a lot.
I thought that was sweet, and how she did so much for the wedding.
Yeah.
The one thing that I was bummed about is we heard, like secondhand that Hoppy and Olivia were getting married, but then I don't really think we had scenes of, or maybe we did a couple of Father Tim and Hoppy hanging out, like having a conversation together. I felt like it was like, oh, Hoppy wants me to go see him for a doctor's appointment. But I feel like we got a lot of those in the first one, and in this one, I think there was just other ground that Jan Karen wanted to cover.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure we'll see Hoppy and Olivia much more in the series.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Well, I'm going to make this a 50-50 thing, and I'm going to go with Angie, that I really enjoyed this one. but I will say that I enjoyed it for a while, and then I was like, oh, come on. About the time when he was like, well, I liked the part where, this is all spoilers, so really, if you've gotten this far. But whenever he actually did get on the plane and went to her, and she had come home, I was like, oh, geez. But I liked it. I thought it was hilarious. I was like, good for you. That should have happened because you're an idiot. But yeah, at first I really liked that, because even though he's 62 years old, like I feel like that's a normal thing for guys to kind of
Oh, yeah.
And being that he had never been married before, and that he had a situation in his past where he had a girlfriend or something and had decided not to go through with it or something. So I feel like, okay, that he was gun shy, blah, 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 Although, now that I'm thinking about it, both situations was him getting cold feet. It was not the girl. So I don't know. But yeah, after a while, and especially like you said, whenever she blatantly asks him to come to New York, and he's like, "Oh, I'm afraid of planes," and I would have been like, "You were just on a plane for at least 9 hours for Ireland. You would go to Ireland, but you can't come to New York." So
Like, get in the
yeah,
car and drive. Like,
right, yeah. Like if you don't want to get on a plane, get in the car.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. He's on the eastern coast. So, I mean, there are probably buses that go from North Carolina up to New York City.
Yeah, I'm
It's not
sure.
like he
Maybe.
didn't
Now,
have
I'm
other
gonna, like,
options.
I'm gonna Google Maps. Let's say
we can decide how badly to judge him based.
yes.
Yeah. I mean, I
let's
know
say
it takes
Durham,
about
North Carolina. That's like a small town. And then to New York City. Do you guys remember James and the Giant Peach?
yeah.
You're right. Okay, this is not awful. 7 hours and 23 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
That's
That's
like
totally doable.
that's
Yeah.
almost probably how long it would take doing all the airport rigmarole and like.
That's such a good point.
And is that driving?
That's driving.
Because I feel like
Wow.
when I went to New York City driving, it took me like 8 hours, and I'm in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So like he's in North Carolina. How's it take less time?
Well, because
Yeah.
that's the section of North Carolina that I picked. It was
Okay.
farther
Mhm.
east because he could have gone from like very west North Carolina.
Okay. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
that's amazing that he would have covered that many states, because like for me, when we drive to New Orleans, it takes 8 hours and we just barely go from Texas
Yeah.
down into Louisiana. It's like
Yeah.
that blows my mind that you can cover that many states in 7 hours.
Well, when I
We're going
visited my
to-
friend, oh, good.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Rainey.
No, I was just going to say when I visited my friend Susan in Philadelphia, we went to New York, but we took the train.
Mhm.
So, but I think it took us 3 hours. Does that sound right, Kate?
That sounds
Even-
yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. So even on the train, it took, but I guess we were making stops and stuff. But yeah, that's 5 hours for me to get to Philadelphia, and then 3 hours on a train.
So just all to say, Father Tim, go to New York City.
Heck yeah.
Would it kill you? It's not even like, I think it's cold and very like a lonely city, if that makes any sense, because there are so many people, but I would still do it if like my one true love was there and they called me on the
Yeah.
phone crying, asking me to come visit them.
Yeah. Now I will say that I kind of liked the way Cynthia handled it though. Like she basically cut him off and was like, dude, if you're not gonna do what I need you to do, then I don't even care. I'm not gonna talk to you. I'm gonna go to New York without even telling you. And you can figure it out. So I think that's why I liked it, because I liked Cynthia's reaction to him.
Yes.
It was very like take control,
Mhm.
but she also didn't like let go of the fact that she was in love with him, although Lord knows why at that point.
Well, I think it's hard. It's easier to like decide you're not going to fall in love with someone than to decide you're going to stop being in love with someone after you've already fallen. So I think like
Trust me, I
maybe
know.
she would have like gone about things differently if she knew how hard he was going to be to get him to commit.
Yeah.
But once she was in love, I think she was like, huh.
Yeah. Yeah, trust me. I know. Hindsight is 2020. You think later, it's like, maybe I shouldn't have even gone there. Oh gosh.
Good old hindsight.
Yeah.
Oh, also, it was very, very sweet that Puny got married. And I loved how he walked her down the aisle. I thought that was so sweet.
Yeah,
I
I
know.
did like the way he said, there was one point where after she gets married and Puny goes up to him and she says, she calls him father. And there's something about how he could tell from like the inflection or something that father was not just, pastor or, it was not like a clergy father, but like a father. And then there's one part where he, I guess as he's walking her down the aisle, he takes her hand, and he says he notices her calloused fingers, and he realizes all the work and just how hard she's worked for him. Or these thoughts that were running through his head just kind of they touched me. Oh, that's, he realizes her worth, I guess.
Yes, and how invaluable she's been to him.
Yes.
And that made me think about how you said, he feels her hands and feels how rough and callous they are. It contrasted with in the newer, and I'm not sure if it's in the book, but the newer Little Women, when Lori grabs Amy's hand at the ball and she's like, you should be ashamed of that hand. How delicate is that hand? Because he's like been such a bum, just like going around Europe, gallivanting about and drinking.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's why I liked this one, because you got a lot more internal growth. I mean, it took forever from Father Tim. but you got a lot of the internal like struggle that he had, and just with all the women in his life and all the cousin Meg and everybody and Edith and everybody. And yeah, well, good.
Well, that's interesting. I think that's one thing now I am a little bit nervous about. I wonder if I'll struggle with later in the series. I just have this weird thing where if it's something set in the past, like a romance or something, and the language is archaic, then it creates this sort of emotional distance that I like. But the modern day language, I was a little bit felt like he was oversharing with me, which is weird because it's a book that I'm reading about him. But that actually, to me, I was like, I don't know, this is too much. Like, this is a lot about your feelings.
No, I can see that though, because when the language is different, it kind of distances you from the actual person, I think.
Yeah. So I'm like, this is wow. I know like everything about you.
But that's funny to me though, Kate, because you are a very character-driven person.
Yes, it's okay. I think it's specifically about when there was so much energy put into his romantic feelings.
Yeah.
And I think that just felt, yeah, I don't know. It's just this, I know there's this line, like you say, I am very character driven. There's this line between character driven and like too much intimacy with the character, I guess. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'll be curious, how much. Yeah, I think, there was, you said, a lot of him processing things and seeing what he thought about things.
Mm-hmm. Maybe I just, excuse me, maybe I just like, because I'm a plot-driven person. Like, I tend to not care about people's feelings. But maybe it's because they're older characters that I was a little bit more like, oh, this is nice that they go through the same things as like other person. We're getting these 60 main characters going through the same things that YA novels would go through, like, are we going to get married? Oh, I don't know if I can handle it. Just liked that part of it, seeing that like old people can go through that too. But yeah, I don't know. Normally I'm not like that.
Yeah, I guess you see that thing. We go through the same struggles as, when you're 20, when you're 30, when you're 60. In a relationship, you can have those same struggles no matter how old you are. Yeah.
Yep.
So you think you'll have everything figured out by then, right? At least I do. I mean, I thought by the time I was 40, I'd have everything figured out, and I'm just as big a mess as I was in my 20s.
I think I'm a bigger mess now than I was in my I was definitely not as emotional as I am now in my 20s. Now I cry at everything.
I'm a different kind of emotional, and I definitely cry at like Hallmark ads can make me cry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes even just like talking about a book that I really liked to my husband, I'll just start crying. It's just so good.
I'm not a crier. It either has to, like, things with animals make me cry. Like I can watch, like something for the ASPCA or on Facebook. Sometimes I'll get something about, an animal being abandoned, through the dodo, and they go through its whole little history of this little dog was abandoned and then it was rescued. Like those things make me cry. But usually when it has to deal with the people, I'm not so much a crier. Yeah.
Same. I don't care about people. I care about dogs.
Those rescue videos, they get me every time.
Yes.
They show like a little shivering dog like getting pulled out of like whatever little hole, and then at the end it's like playing and like snuggling, and it's like, oh my goodness.
I watched one. They always have really happy endings, but I watched one and it was not a happy ending, and I was so upset. I'm like, how dare you feature this? I'm expecting a happy ending and this little dog dies. And yeah, all the comments were angry. They're like, how dare you? This is not what I wanted. I wanted a happy ending for this little dog.
It was that cathartic relief to see him happy at the end and know the world is going to be okay.
Yeah.
I remember there was a really sweet one that was a like extra behind the scenes clip for Planet Earth. And there was a penguin chick that had somehow fallen in a little hole. And so the mama penguin was all upset, and she's like looking around, but penguins aren't very, I don't know, they can't like maneuver very well. And so she was just looking really upset at her little baby stuck in the hole. And so the staff, they said they usually make a policy. They don't interfere with like the fate of nature, but they decided this was an exception. And so what was so cute is they came over and the mama penguin just watched them calmly. Like she kind of understood they were trying to help. And she was like looking in the hole and watching what they were doing. And then they pulled out the baby chicken. It was okay. And they walked off into the sunset together.
Oh, thank God. I would be very upset if they were just like, we're just going to let this penguin die. My mother will freak out every time an ASPCA commercial comes on. And like if I'm over at their house, she will jump up and turn the TV off or turn the channel or whatever. She just cannot, like 2 seconds in, and she's like, turn it. Every time. And I mean, I'm that way too, but I would be like more calm about it.
Yes. Well, and I think Angie, you were saying on your middle grade March TBR how like so many animal stories, like they don't end well, but one that does is Rascal, and it's about a little boy that gets a raccoon.
Oh,
yeah. So that's one that I like because it's just very like lighthearted, and he just keeps the raccoon, and that's the conclusion.
I'll need to look
that's good. Yeah, me too. Because I'm like Angie. I will not go towards an animal-centric middle grade or book in general or movie or anything, because I'm like, that is gonna die. That animal is gonna die.
Which is never reading it.
Yeah,
which is like going back to book 1 with Barnabas. When Barnabas was stolen, I'm like, what is this dog being put through? Is he involved in dog fights? Like, what's going on? So I was very happy that he was just a little skinny and dirty, but he was okay.
Yeah. I was very happy that there was a happy ending for Barnabas. Yes. Oh, I love Barnabas. He might be my favorite character. Hands down.
I think I really liked seeing Dooley's progression in this one. And I feel really bad for him because he's like just gotten this stable home with Father Tim. But I think Father Tim, he sees like trouble brewing, and he kind of knows it would be for the best for him to go away. So I just hope this school he goes to, like, he isn't bullied, or if he is, he'll tell Father Tim. And
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I see writing on the wall that there's trouble for Dooley.
So do you guys think he will end up going to this school?
I guess I thought, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so too. Because I mean, if he doesn't, there's not like a Dooley storyline. I mean, there might be something in the works. Like he's just a kid, so yeah, they could have lots of storylines, I guess. But I feel like they were working up to that he's going to go away to school. So
Yeah.
But here's the thing: like, how old was Dooley by then?
It just turned. There was his 13th birthday, wasn't there, in the
I
book?
think so.
Okay, because so this is like a high school, like a boarding school that he'd be going to. Okay, because at times I would forget that he was only 13 or whatever it was. And I was like, are they talking about college? Is he going away to college? Like, that seems like a long jump. I feel like, like, wasn't he just like 10 in the first book?
I was kind of confused because they were talking, and this is again like something missing from my knowledge about the American school system, but they were talking about him prepping for SATs, and I thought that was to get into college. But I'm like, he's 13, and it was like kind of to get into these boarding schools. I'm like,
yeah.
do I not understand SATs?
Yeah, no, I thought that was odd because I mean, I would imagine there'd have to be some sort of entrance exam, but I thought SATs were just a high school, college thing. So I was confused too, Chelsea, and I went to an American high school.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know what SATs are because I always had heard of them kind of as like and then you take that grade and it helps you like get a scholarship or whatever for university. And I'm like, he's 13, like he's not going to do well in these exams. Why are you making him like tutor for these exams for like grade 12 students?
I think that's why I was confused too, because they were talking about stuff that nowadays would be just for college entrances. So yeah.
And the fact that, they were talking about tuition that's like college level tuition. I guess because it's a boarding school, so that's why it was like they were talking about like 20,000 a year or something crazy. Like,
yeah. And boarding school isn't like a huge thing in the States. So
I wonder if like for more wealthy populations it is.
Okay.
I feel like it's like middle class, can't really afford it. So then I'm like, I wonder, because I mean, I know they exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always thought of boarding school as more like of a Northeastern thing. I don't know if that's just a stereotype, the rich Northeastern family.
I don't know. That would be interesting to look at the like geography kind of demographics of where, high school boarding schools are.
Yeah, because I can't even think that I've ever heard of anybody in the States going to a boarding school. So, I mean, I'm sure they exist, obviously, but I've just never heard of it, actually. So that always seemed like a very UK thing. So, yeah, I don't know.
Close to where my parents live, there's a really pretty one. And all the buildings are like whitewashed stone. Yeah, so but it looked like, I don't know, maybe like 200 students would go there. It didn't look big.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess they're tucked away in in places here and there.
Well,
yeah, I guess.
Go ahead. I was just going to say the series it has a very British feel to it. At least for me, it does. And maybe it's because right now I'm reading a book by Miss Reed, and I see a lot of similarities in the language, and even they call it Mitford School, not Mitford Elementary or Mitford Junior High. And in the book I'm reading, it's Fairacre School, I think, Fairacre School. So yeah, it has a very British feel to me. I imagine Jan Karen is very fond of the Brits and was quite influenced by.
I saw in an interview actually that the Miss Reed series kind of inspired her.
Yeah, I can definitely see similarities.
Mm-hmm. And I've noticed from my time living like in Mississippi versus Pennsylvania, there's like, you say yes ma'am, no ma'am down south. And there's a lot more like, this bothers me is here, parents will introduce their kids to me, like kids that are Peter's age, as Kate. And I'm like, that is just too informal. Like I think there should be a way that kids address adults. And what I liked is what I did growing up is you would just say Miss and their first name or Mr. and their first name. So that's how Peter and Arthur, like every grown up is like Miss so-and-so or Mr. so-and-so. So, and also just like dressing up for things is more of a thing in the South. And so
Yeah.
I guess that would make sense then that it might feel slightly more British.
Yeah. Yeah, Pennsylvania definitely doesn't care about that. Actually, I always grew up calling my friends' parents by their first name.
Mhm.
So it never bothered me. But I've realized that makes it hard. Well, not that I need to, but like I've never been somebody that would call a boss Mr. So-and-so, or, like I always just call them by their first name, which is fine in my job. That's they are okay with that. But I always just thought like I have people that call their bosses by their last name, Mr. or whatever. I'm like, wow, that's like they're not better than you.
That seems interesting to me. I wonder how common that is, because even like my husband's job, like the way high up people, he's still able to call them by their first name. That's like expected. That's interesting. I wonder how common it is.
My work is all first names.
What's that?
At my job, it's all first names.
Yeah. I feel like that should be a more modern thing now.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I call my coworkers by their last name. They call me by my first name. Or at least I feel like the older staff, we call each other by our last name, and the younger staff call everybody by their first name. Yeah, so I'll use my coworker's last name, and I've had coworkers tell me like, don't call me Amanda, call me Mary. But it's like, well, no, I feel weird calling you Mary. I need to call you by her last name.
It makes sense because like everybody else at school is calling them by their last name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if I was in that kind of environment where the students were expected to call them like Miss something, whatever, I probably would just do that out of habit, and so that the kids would know that, and see that everybody's calling them that. But I have a couple of coworkers that I call by their last name, but I don't put Mr. in front of it. That's just what they just go by their last name.
Like a football coach.
Right. Yeah. Because like if their name is just John, we could have like 3 Johns in my office, so we call them by their last name. But yeah, I agree though that this book, like even though it was only set in the 90s, it feels like a historical fiction. And that's why I was like, can we say that the 90s are historical fiction for Historica? Yeah. And Kate was like, no.
But you know what? Also, why no? Because it's a contemporary book. Like she's writing about current day when they came out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a question. What was Meg writing? Was she writing smut?
No idea. They never delved into that. Like, what was she doing in the room?
Well, apparently she was writing something, right? She had some sort of manuscript.
She did.
Father Ted looked at it, and not Father Ted, Father Tim. That's a completely different.
Yes, that's so funny.
He said like she was lucky he didn't burn it or something. So I'm like, I'm guessing she was writing romance, like really explicit romance, maybe.
Okay, that was my vibe. And then I like flashed back to that one of the scenes where like him and Cynthia were fighting and he went to put her letter away and he was like, it even looked like there were less letters than before. And I'm like, oh my goodness, did she like steal Cynthia and Kim's letters and like incorporate into whatever she was writing?
I hadn't thought. I knew she was stealing the letters because yeah, he does mention the letter pile was smaller than what he.
Yeah, and it was like maybe it just seemed that way because like he was feeling distant from Cynthia, and I'm like, no, Meg is stealing your letters and like using them as like plot.
Maybe that was it. Yeah.
I don't know.
Hopefully the like embarrassing, like intimate things that they said were just on the phone. Cause I feel like it was in the letters, then they would be like, oh, I can't believe you said that on the phone.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
When they said that about the embarrassing intimate stuff, I was like, Father Tim, my goodness. But yet you can't make a commitment to go to New York to see her? Like, what are you doing to this poor girl? Jeez.
Why buy the cow when you're getting the milk for free, right?
That's true. Amen. Oh gosh. Oh, Father Tim. Oh goodness.
So I was really relieved, Chelsea, how you were saying you were surprised a whole other book of him like hemming and hawing over his commitment. Like the bands were published. And then I went ahead and I looked up the synopsis for the next one. It says Cynthia and Tim married. And I'm like, thank you.
I was kind of, though, maybe I missed something, but at the very, very end, when it just kind of goes right into that they're married, is that a dream? Was that a dream sequence, or was that like just like pushing forward? Or am I like
with the scene that Kate's talking about where they said the bands were published?
Oh, maybe. Oh, yeah. I think I must have missed something because I was listening to it on audiobook at that point. So maybe I missed.
They published the bands in advance. Like that's like they published that a certain number of weeks before, and then in case someone is like, no, like I'm actually her husband, she can't get married. So they give people like usually it's like 4 weeks or 8 weeks or something in advance of the wedding date. You have to publish bands.
Okay.
And that is actually, that feels very like Victorian. That's how the bands are published in lots of Victorian novels.
Yes, I hear that a lot in romance novels. Bands. They go to they elope to Gretna Green and they have the bands published.
Yes.
I had never heard that before, so I was very confused.
You need to read more romance.
Apparently. Angie, you need to pick a book for our book club that has that in it.
Mentions bands.
Yeah. I was like, what?
When I got married, because we got married in Zambia and we had to apply for a license 4 weeks before, and then they had like a cork board in the city hall where they like publish a list of everyone who's planning to get married in the next 4 weeks, and then like, you can walk by and see and object if they want to object, and then.
Huh. Interesting. I never knew that even was a thing.
I guess that I will say, in defense of that, that's much less awkward for like someone to be like, oh, I saw you announcing like that you're going to get married, but you can't do that because we're married. Like, as opposed to like, if anyone objects, stand up now, like forever hold your peace, or speak now, or forever hold your peace.
Yeah.
Although I wonder, has anyone ever been at a wedding where someone did that? Like objected at the wedding? Yeah.
No.
It's a very awkward moment. Actually, what was funny is I was at a wedding, it was like a coronavirus wedding. So they had to like have the guest list, and it was outdoor. And where was the bride from? Uganda. And so what was really sad is like her father wasn't able to be there to walk her down the aisle. But when they got to the section that said, speak now or forever hold your peace, the groom like glared at everyone. Like, I dare you.
I've been to those kind of weddings before where they're like, don't you dare. But no, thankfully I've never been in that awkward situation.
Taylor Swift has.
Oh, Oh,
Remember the Speak Now music video?
no.
She's
I don't.
the one that wrecks the wedding.
Oh,
She runs off with the groom.
oh, goodness.
Yes. Not a good look.
No, I'm not a big enough Swiftie fan to know. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I was just when I got to that point in the book, I thought that I missed or that they didn't say anything about them getting married. And I was like, all this buildup, and then there's no wedding or anything. Like,
Unfortunately, though, I don't think we get a wedding. It sounds like we hear that they're getting married and then they're just married in the next one. I know.
oh, yeah, that's kind of, I mean, I would at
Maybe-
least see the wedding day or something like
Yeah.
that.
Maybe she was like, I just wrote 2 weddings. I can't do another one just yet.
True.
You guys know if those books are, if Cynthia's books are an actual like thing written by Jan Karen? Because I'd love to read those Violet books.
I wanted to too. That's what I was thinking. And I don't think they are.
Yeah, they remind me a lot of, and Kate, you mentioned them, the Poppleton books and the Mr. Putter and Tabby. They feel like they're that same kind of like cozy
Yes,
children's book.
they totally do. Yeah. Yeah, I think she could have easily hired an illustrator and written really charming. I'm sure she's been asked. She's
I was gonna say we should write her and tell her
she actually did you hear, and this is maybe I just heard it through the Mitford like magazine or whatever, they're making a Mitford Museum.
Oh,
Yeah. So I'll make sure to read to us the articles that are coming out on that. I think it's supposed to like go up this year. But also it is sad. I heard that the audiobook narrator passed away.
oh no.
Yeah.
That's gonna be depressing.
I know. I don't know if she has plans to write any new books.
Yeah, that's true. If they're done, if he was able to do the full series, that'd be nice. Yeah.
When was the last book published? Do you know?
2015, maybe?
Yeah. Probably that's the last one then, I would think. If they're unless, well, I haven't seen what the publication ranges are, because if they're all like 3 years apart or something like that, then
Yeah.
but
Maybe next year we'll have to take a literary trip to the Mitford Museum.
ooh,
That would be really fun.
that would be fun.
Where are they gonna put it? Like in Jan Karen's hometown, wherever that is, or?
I'm not sure if it's her hometown. I know in North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like something just mentioned in passing in an article. So I think they're planning on doing like a big spread. And I Googled, yeah, let's see, like Pitford Museum. Oh, Hudson, North Carolina. That popped up.
Okay.
It plans to open its doors to the public in June 2021.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. It doesn't really give details on what's going to be there. But oh, that's funny. It was like a want a help wanted like thing, hiring someone to help curate the museum.
I'd go live in North Carolina for a while.
Yes.
Take a leave of absence for my job. That'd be fun. Yeah, we should. None of us really live that close to there, though. I was gonna say one of us should at least go down. Kate and I would probably be the closest, but
Yes.
oh well. So, do we have anything else to talk about with this one? I don't think so.
I don't think anything comes to mind.
Okay. All right. Well, what's the next one called, Kate? Do you know off the top of your head?
High Green Hills.
Okay. High Green Hills. Okay. So that's the next one for March.
In my cookbook, The next section is for something about canon. So I don't know if it's the same with everybody's the cookbook you guys are looking at, or the editions you guys have. So I had to skip that whole section to get to these high green hills. So just
Oh,
Yeah.
you know what? I think I kind of wish I had known this going in, but I think sequentially the next one is these high green hills, but then some of them like jump back and are prequels. So I know there's another group like reading through the Mitford books this year. I forget what their hashtag is. I've seen it on Instagram, and they are jumping back. So I think the one out to Canaan or something.
yes,
Yeah.
Yeah. But since I guess we'll just stick with our original plan and read.
Okay.
these
Good
high
to
green
be very
hills.
opinionated about publication versus sequential order.
yes.
What's
by the end
that?
of the series. We'll get to be very opinionated about like publication versus sequential
Yes.
ordering. It can be
And
like Narnia or something where
Yes.
people have like deep opinions about it.
I
I
have
think it's weird that like there's such a consensus, like publishers have decided how Narnia is ordered, and it's different than how it was published. It's like I didn't know until one of my friends was like, "Oh, well, they were published in this order." I'm like, "They were? I had no idea."
yeah, I never knew that they were publishing them in my opinion, the wrong order. And until somebody said something about The Magician's Nephew being the first book. And I was like, what? No, it's not. And then I started seeing all these people and I was like, you guys are wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. It just like every time somebody does that, and I mean, like, whatever, it shouldn't matter. It doesn't matter. But it matters in my heart.
Yeah.
And it gives me
I have strong opinions too. I'm like, you have to
yeah.
order Narnia through the door of the wardrobe. That's the only correct way. Like,
yes.
you must walk through that wardrobe with Lucy and be shocked.
Yes.
I'm chronological in most things. I mean, and believe me, I know nothing about the correct way to read things, or the way to read things for the best experience. Like I'm just like, I need things in chronological order.
Now, what I remember being surprised about is that the publication order, I knew Magician's Nephew might have been later, but it was the next to last book that was published.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I do think it's weird to read The Horse and His Boy like after The Silver Chair. Like I would think you would read The Horse and His Boy after The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, because they're still in Narnia then. But I guess they're in Narnia technically during The Silver Chair. You just don't see them maybe.
Mm. Yeah, those ones I'm not as familiar with. It's basically like my sadness is when people read The Magician's Nephew first. Everything else I don't really care about.
I think it's really cool to find out the origins of like where the wardrobe is from.
Yeah.
Finding that out after the fact.
Yeah.
Like looking back at me like, oh my goodness, that wardrobe they went through. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why it makes me sad when they read it in that order.
Yes.
I also said the wrong order, but I need to be tolerant.
I even have my box set arranged the numbers out of order.
Yes, me too. I do too.
That's so funny.
I'm gonna get sticky numbers and put them on in the order. Oh my. Well, we got off topic, so maybe that's a good way to end. But okay, so we're good there. Okay, so we will just see everybody next month for what'd you say it was called? Because I lost
These
my
high green hills.
Okay, these high green hills. Okay, everyone. Thanks for watching. Bye.